Sri Sai Satcharitra, Chapter 10. Sai Baba's mode of life, his sleeping board, his stay in Shirdi, his teachings, his humility, the easiest path. Remember him, that is Sai Baba, always with love, for he was engrossed in doing good to all and always abided in his self. To remember him only is to solve the riddle of life and death. This is the best and easiest of sadhanas, as it involves no expenditure. A little exertion here brings great rewards. So, as long as our senses are sound, we should minute by minute practice this sadhana. All other gods are illusionary. God is the only God. If we believe in Satguru's holy feet, he can change our fortune for the better. If we serve him nicely, we get rid of our samsara. We need not study any philosophy like the Nyaya or Mimamsa. If we make him our helmsman, we can easily cross over the sea of all our pains and sorrows. As we trust the helmsman in crossing rivers and seas, so we have to trust our Satguru in getting over the ocean of the worldly existence. The Satguru looks to the intense feeling and devotion of his devotees, endows them with knowledge and eternal bliss. In the last chapter, Baba's mendicancy and devotees' experiences and other subjects are dealt with. Let the readers now hear where and how Sai Baba lived, how he slept, and how he thought, etc. Baba's wonderful bedstead. Let us see where and how Baba slept. Mr. Nana Sahib Dangle bought for Sai Baba a wooden plank about 4 cubits in length and only a span in breadth for sleeping upon. Instead of keeping the plank on the floor and then sleeping on it, Baba tied it to a swing to the rafters of the masjid with old shreds or rags and commenced to sleep upon it. The rags were so thin and worn out that it was a problem how could they even bear or support even the weight of the plank itself, let alone the weight of Baba. But somehow, some way or the other, it was Baba's sheer Leela that the worn out rags did sustain the plank with the weight of Baba on it. The 4 corners of the plank, Baba lighted panatis, that is earthen lamps, one at each corner, and kept them burning the whole night. It was a sight for the gods to see Baba sleeping on that plank. It was wonder to all how Baba got up and down the plank. Out of curiosity, many careful observers kept watching the process of mounting and dismounting, but none succeeded. As crowd began to swell, so to detect this wonderful feat, Baba one day broke the plank into pieces and threw it away. Baba had all the 8 siddhas, that is powers, at his command. He never practiced nor cared for them. They came to him naturally as a result of his perfection. Shagun manifestation of Brahman. Though Sai Baba looked like a man 3 cubits and a half in length, still he dwelt in the hearts of all. Inwardly he was unattached and indifferent, but outwardly he longed for public welfare. Inwardly most disinterested, he looked outward full of desire for the sake of his devotees. Inwardly an adobe of peace, he always looked outwardly restless. Inwardly he had the state of the Brahman. Outwardly he acted like a devil. Inwardly he had the state of Brahman, and outwardly he acted like a devil. Inwardly he loved Advaita. Outwardly he got entangled in the world. Sometimes he looked on all with affection, and at times he threw stones at them. Sometimes he scolded them, while at times he embraced them and was calm, composed, tolerant, and well balanced. He always abided and was engrossed in the self and was well disposed towards his bhaktas. He always sat on one asana and never travelled his band. His band was a small stick which he always carried in his arm. He was calm, being thought-free. He never cared for wealth, fame, and lived on begging. Such a life he had. He always uttered Allah Malik. God is the real owner. Entire and unbroken was his love towards his bhaktas. He was the mine or the storehouse for self-knowledge and full of bliss divine. Such was the divine form of Sai Baba, boundless, endless, and undifferentiated. One principle which envelops the whole universe incarnated in Sai Baba. The really meritorious and fortunate people got this treasure trove in their hands, while those who did not know the real worth of Sai Baba took or take him to a man, a mere human being, were and are indeed miserable. His stay in Shirdi and probable birth date. No one knew or knows the parents or exact birth date of Sai Baba, but it can be approximately determined by his stay in Shirdi. Baba first came to Shirdi when he was a young lad of 16 and stayed there for 3 years. Then all of a sudden he disappeared for some time. After some time he reappeared in the Nizam state near Aurangabad and again came to Shirdi with the marriage party of Chand Padal. when he was 20 years old. Since then, he stayed in Shirdi continuously for the period of 60 years, after which Baba took his Mahat Samadhi in the year 1918. From this, we can say that the year of Baba's birth is approximately 1838. Baba's mission and advice. Saint Ramdas flourished in the 17th century and was fulfilled to a great extent his mission of protecting cows and Brahmins against the Yavanas, that is, the Mohammedans. But within 2 centuries after him, the split between the two communities, Hindus and the Muslim, widened again, and Sai Baba came in to bridge the gulf. His constant advice to all was to this effect: Rama, that is the god of the Hindus, and Rahim, the god of the Muslims, were one and the same. There was not the slight difference between them. Then why should the devotees quarrel among themselves? You ignorant folk, children, join hands and bring both the communities together. Act sanely, and thus you will gain your objective of national unity. It is not good to dispute and argue. So don't argue, don't emulate others. Always consider your interest and welfare. The Lord will protect you. Yoga, sacrifice, penance, and knowledge are the means to attain God. If you do not succeed in this by any means, vain is your birth. If anyone does any evil unto you, do not retaliate. If you can do anything, do good unto others. This, in short, was Sai Baba's advice to all, and this will stand in good stead both in material and spiritual matters. Sai Baba as Satguru. There are gurus, and there are so many called gurus who go from house to house with cymbals and venas in their hands and make a show of their spirituality. They blow mantra into the ears of the disciple and extract money from them. They profess to teach piety and religion to their disciples, but are themselves impious and irreligious. Sai Baba never thought of making the least show of his worth, that is pity, body consciousness. He had none, but he had great love for the disciples. There are two kinds of gurus. First one is niyat, that is appointed or fixed, and the second one is aniyat, unappointed or general. The latter, by their advice, develop the good qualities in us, purify our hearts, and set us in the path of salvation. But contact with the former dispels our quality and establishes us in unity by making us realize thou art that. There are various gurus imparting to us various kinds of worldly knowledge, but he who fixes us in our nature and carries us beyond the ocean of worldly existence is the Satguru. Sai Baba was such a Satguru. His greatness was indescribable. If anybody went to take his darshan, he, without being asked, would give every detail of the past, present, and future. He saw divinity in all beings. Friends and foes were alike to him, disinterested and equally balanced. He obliged the evildoers. He was the same in prosperity and adversity. No doubt ever touched him. Though he possessed the human body, he was not in the least attached to his body or house. Though he looked embodied, he was really disembodied, that is, free in this every life. Blessed are the people of Shirdi who worship Sai as their God, while eating, drinking, working in the backyard and fields, and doing various household works. They always remembered Sai and sang his glory. They knew no other God except Sai. What to speak of the love, the sweetness of the love of the women of Shirdi? They were quite ignorant, but the pure love inspired them to compose poems or songs in their simple rural language. Letters or learnings they had none. Still, one can discern real poetry in their simple songs. It is not intelligence but love that inspires real poetry as such. Real poetry is the manifestation of true love, and this can be seen and appreciated by intelligent listeners. Collection of these folk songs is desirable, and Baba willing, some fortunate devotees may undertake the task of collecting and publishing these folk songs, either in the Sai Leela magazine or separately in a book form. Baba's humility. Lord or Bhagwan is said to have 6 qualities. That is, first one is fame, second one is wealth, third one is non-attachment, fourth one is knowledge, fifth one is grandeur, and the sixth one is generosity. Baba had all these in him. He incarnated in flesh for the sake of his bhaktas. Wonderful was his grace and kindness. He drew the devotees to him, or how else one could be known him for. For the sake of his bhaktas, Baba spoke such words as the goddess of speech dare not utter. He is a specimen. Baba spoke very humbly as follows: Slave of slaves, I am your debtor. I am satisfied at your darshan. It is a great favor that I saw your feet. I am an insect in your excreta. I consider myself blessed thereby. What humility is this? If anybody would think that by publishing this any disrespect is shown to Sai, We beg his pardon, and to atone for this, we sing and chant Baba's name. Though Baba seemed outwardly to enjoy sense objects, he had not the least flavor in them or even in consciousness of enjoying it. Though he ate, he had no taste, and though he saw, he never felt any interest in what he saw. Regarding this passion, he was perfect as celibate as Hanuman. He was not attached to anything. He was pure consciousness, the resting place of desire, anger, and other feelings. In short, he was disinterested, free, and perfect. A striking instance may be cited in illustration of this statement. Nanavali. There was in Shirdi a very quaint and strange fellow by name Nanavali. He looked to Baba's work and affairs. He once approached Baba, who was seated on his gadi, that is seat, and asked him to get up, as he wanted to occupy the same. Baba at once got up and left the seat, which he occupied. After sitting there for a while, Nanavali got up and asked Baba to take his seat. Then Baba sat on the seat and Nanavali fell at his feet and then went away. Baba did not show the slightest displeasure in being dictated to and ousted. This Nanavali loved Baba so much that he breathed his last on the 13th day of Baba taking Mahasamadhi. The easiest path, hearing the stories of saints and being in the company. Though Sai Baba acted outwardly like an ordinary man, his actions showed extraordinary intelligence and strength. Whatever he did was done for the good of his devotees. He never prescribed any asana, regulation of breath, or any rites to his bhaktas, nor did he blow any mantras into their ears. He told them to leave off all cleverness and remember Sai Sai. If you did that, he said, all your shackles would be removed and you will be free. Sitting between 5 fires, sacrifices, chanting, eightfold yoga are impossible for the Brahmins only. They are of no use to other classes. The function of the mind is to think. It cannot remain for a minute without thinking. If you give it to the sense objects, it will think about it. If you give it to the Guru, it will think about Guru. You have heard most attentively the greatness grandeur of Sai. This is the natural remembrance. Worship and kirtan of Sai, hearing the stories of the saints, is not so difficult as the other sadhanas mentioned above. These stories remove all fear of the samsara, that is the worldly existence, and take you on to the spiritual path. So listen to the stories, meditate on them, and assimilate them. If this is done, not only the Brahmins, but women and lower castes will get pure and holy. You may do or attend to your worldly duties, but give your mind to Sai and his stories, and then he is sure to bless you. This is the easiest path, but why do not all take to it? The reason is that without God's grace, we do not get the desire to listen to his stories. With God's grace, everything is smooth and easy. Hearing the stories of the saints is in a way keeping their company. The importance of the company of saints is very great. It removes our body consciousness and egoism and destroys completely the chain of birth and death, cuts asunder all the knots of heart and takes us to God, who is pure consciousness. It certainly increases our non-attachment to sense objects and makes us quite indifferent to pleasures and pains and leads us on the spiritual path. If you have no other sadhana, such as uttering God's name, worship or devotion, etc., but if you take refuge in them wholeheartedly, they will carry you off safely across the ocean of worldly existence. It is for this reason that the saints manifest themselves in this world. Even sacred rivers such as Ganges, Godavari, Krishna and Kaveri, etc., which wash away the sins of the world, desire that the saints should come to them for a bath and purify them. Such is the grandeur of the saints. It is on account of the store of merits in the past birth that we have attained the feet of Sai Baba. We conclude this chapter with meditation on Sai Baba's form. He, the beautiful and handsome Sai, standing on the edge of the masjid and distributing udi to each and every bhakta with a view to his welfare. He who thinks that the world has not and who is ever engrossed in supreme bliss, before him we humbly prostrate ourselves. Bo to Sri Sai, peace be to all.